Leigh Richardson, the founder of the Brain Performance Center. Leigh, if everybody were a client of yours, I'm sure we'd have more intelligent activity and less, I don't know, TikTok challenges. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, doing pretty well, all things considered. You have an interesting topic that you wanted to address with us, and it's something that I've researched, but I really haven't talked a whole lot about. That is, even if people end up recovering just fine, seemingly, from COVID-19, even if people often will have mild symptoms, it doesn't mean there aren't things that are different about them. I was taking a look at the most recent guidance from the CDC, and they've articulated that approximately 60% of people who've had COVID-19, regardless of the extent of the symptoms, have something that changes within them. And specifically, given that you're from the Brain Performance Center, you wanted to focus on the brain. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So there's four things that creates dysregulation in the brain, and one is emotional trauma. And just going through COVID-19 has been emotionally traumatizing. And another is stress, and it has certainly been stressful. And we know when we get exposed to stress, it increases the activity in the frontal cortex. But what's so interesting is the stress that we can control affects us differently than the stress we can't control. And the COVID-19 is certainly something that none of us have we have no dreams of being able to control that.
You know, Leigh, I think about it, and, you know, we might have illnesses, like if you have a bad cold or something, and it takes you a while to feel like yourself. You feel foggy. Sometimes it takes you a while to get taste back and all of your different senses back. With even more benign ailments, are there elements of this in play to where you change a little bit sometimes because of what you went through?
Well, I think that there are. I mean, anytime you hit your head, you change the way things are wiring and firing up there. So, I mean, the brain runs everything. The brain's like this 3-pound little mega center, and so much can impact the brain. You hit your head, you have emotional trauma, that lives on in the brain. It lives on in our subconscious. So we think, oh, I'm over that. I'm so over that. But it lives in our subconscious, and it'll keep going around and round and round. And for some of us, it makes us depressed. For some of us, it makes us anxious. For others, it makes us very paranoid.
Leigh, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not the biggest fan of boxing.
You're right about that.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because obviously, concussion, certainly football, been in, the news for years now, and the conversations, the thought about that. How big of an issue do we face, maybe not with boxing, but with contact sports like football?
I think we face a big issue because and we've known it for a long time. NFL's brought a lot of attention to it, what the concussions have done with some of their players. But honestly, Brian, I believe everybody is going to hit their head. Now, I've been in ICU twice with brain injury.
Wow.
I certainly hope not everybody experiences that on that level, but it's, you fall down, you hit your head. I don't even have any good, sexy stories to tell. It's just daily life.
Wow. So let me, you bring up an interesting thought about that. My wife had post-concussion syndrome after she was in a serious accident on the interstate, and it took her about 6 months before she was normal, but she still says her memory isn't the same. What changes inside your brain when you go through stuff like that?
Well, you change the way the brain's wiring and firing, so that can change three things. One is the power. We all have slow, medium, and fast waves, and we need them all, but we need the right amount. And two is coherent, and that's how the brain shares information. All of a sudden your brain cannot share enough information or share too much, dysregulated. And the third thing is phase. That's the timing in the brain. The brain can get speeded up or it can get slowed down. Memory is a whole brain function because you've got emotional memory, you've got, auditory memory, you've got working memory. So memory is a whole brain function.